Hello, this is Builder Dominic, and welcome to my review of the LEGO Ghostbusters Firehouse headquarters, set number 75827. This set came out in 2016, has 4,634 pieces, and was designed for people 16 and up. I love the front of the Ghostbuster Firehouse, and a lot of that has to do with these two huge front doors that, they open inward, and this is where the Ecto-1 would kind of go flying out in case they get a ghost call and it's emergency, and you've got those red flashing lights to warn pedestrians, hey, look out, there's a car that's going to speed out of here, don't get run over. And then here is the Ghostbusters sign, and the big doors themselves have a smaller door that the people would use, not Ecto-1, and that also opens up into the building. And then little details, like these blue dots with the white stars, very patriotic, and I love it because Firehouse was a government building before it became a Ghostbuster Firehouse. So again, those little details just give the building life. And over here we've got a stoplight because the firehouse is on the corner and there's going to be a stoplight, and there will be like a street sign decal here, but I don't put decals on until I do my fast builds. And the light itself, not only is it a cool build, but I love the fact that it's red, orange, and green, not red, yellow, and green, because if you've ever been to the city or you live in the city, you know that there's just so much grime and soot from the car pollution and the smog from the city. Those yellow lights never look yellow, they're more orange in tint. So I love the fact that they used an orange stud instead of the more commonly yellow belief of a red, yellow, green light. And now I'm just going to pan up so you can see those huge windows up in front of the building. You kind of peek inside and you'll see some of the beds and the pool table. And as I pan up, you're just kind of get a feel for how massive this model is and the true size of it. There's not a lot of big items on the side of the building, but there's lots of little things that help this building come to life. One of those is this side entrance door for minifigures to use, and it opens towards us. Here you can see that stoplight, and there's this little tin garbage can, and it's really cool in its design and looks neat, but it's so fragile it easily falls apart, and those little sides are always moving out of place, so as you move it, you're probably gonna have to kind of fix it, especially if you're doing some stop motion work. Over here we've got the pink studs kind of representing the pink slime from Ghostbusters 2 that was growing and feeding off negative human emotion, and it's overtaking the city, so that's a nice little nod to the second Ghostbuster film. And then here, with just a few bricks, you've built an air conditioning unit in the window, one of those little window air conditioning units. And it's just the cool thing about Lego is how just with a few bricks we've got an endless supply of ideas and things we can build. And now the brickwork on the second and third floor was amazing in its appearance. It's just it's not just one long brick. It's lots of little bricks interlaced to not only create a more solid build, but to look like bricks. And then there's mortar work around the windows. It goes 2x1, 2s and 1s all the way around each window, and it looks amazing, and I wouldn't do it any other way. But when you're building this 4,000 plus piece model and doing that for 3 floors, it gets very tedious, and it's kind of just something you have to deal with when you buy these more larger buildings, especially one that's brick like this. But well worth it when you see the overall look. And what's really cool is that they designed it so that a ghost can fly anywhere around the building. So you've got this masonry work around the window, and what you can do is you just remove these little flat one-piece studs, which is not coming off easy because I'm trying to film, and then you stick the translucent pole in that hole there. So you just stick the pole in there, and now you've got the ghost flying around the Ghostbuster building. It's just a really cool effect. The back of the building is by far the most plain. You've just got some wood paneling on the bottom and then some lighter bricks on the second and third floor, and then we go up to the roof, which we see that band of cement all the way around the building. On the bottom of the wall you can see these hinges where the door or wall will open up to reveal the inside of the firehouse, and here's the little crack or seam where it's going to split in two. This side is the stairwell and this side is the office buildings. And the fire escape ladder actually bends up and down. So, it would be up here, and then you simply fold it down so that those people on the second floor can safely get to the sidewalk below in case of emergencies. And that's very important if you're in a firehouse to have a fire escape. Safety first, even if you're in the building that is to protect you from fires. Now, the second floor, this fire escape door opens out towards us, and then this window here, very clear, but over here, you're going to see a thinner window with a vent, and that vent is for the bathroom. So, if you do a number 2 and it smells, you turn on the vent and you can air out that bathroom, or you're taking a shower and you need to, be able to see in the mirror, turn on that vent and get rid of all that steam. Now, the third floor, again, we've got another fire escape door that opens out towards us, and the ladder, and here you're going to notice some clips on the fire escape, and that actually locks the wall in place so it doesn't swing open as you're moving it around. And then through this window you can kind of see the lamp inside the building, which is cool. And then this window, you'll notice they're not clear like plastic pieces, but white bricks, and that's because that's the photo room or dark room where they're developing photos and you can't have natural light get in. So that's just that little detail that this firehouse adds that gives it so much character. The roof itself is a very simple design. You've got these slanted red pieces all the way around. Then there's some flat plates to make it smooth around the edges. And then, of course, there are studs on the roof itself, which is great, though, because then you can have minifigures walking around in different poses. And really the only thing on the roof is this huge, skylight or air conditioning unit. And it's really cool because, again, very simple design with some grating here, but it acts as a lock for the side walls. So the side walls are actually locking into these two pieces here, and then there's another lock with the fire escape ladder. So what you do is you just simply take that fire escape ladder off of here, and then you'll see these two bricks here, and we open it up and detach it before swinging the walls out. At the bottom of the stairwell, we've got the containment center that the Ghostbusters put all the ghosts they caught running around New York and into that containment trap. And they've got those red and green lights because when the light is green, the trap is clean. And when the red light goes on, it means the APA shut it down and released all the ghosts back into New York and created a HE double hockey sticks on Earth. Way to go, EPA. Alright, just kidding, I'm actually a pretty big environmentalist, so go EPA! Now, the stairs go up to the second floor, and we've got another set of stairs, and these ones kind of curve up to the third, but what's really cool is this fire escape door that opens outward towards the exit on the outside walls. And then the third floor, I've left the door open just so they're pretty much the exact same design so you can see what it looks like. And because we're on the top floor, there's no more stairs, but there's a longer kind of handrail here to, protect the Ghostbusters from falling over because, as we all know, they're really out of shape. The bottom floor of the set is really cool. It's a wide open space because, here's like the garage where the car would be parked. You've got a toolbox here and it's filled with tools. You've got boxes and magazines laid all over the place. And then, of course, over here is the office, and that would be Janine's desk with the computer. And then back here is where the Ghostbusters and, Peter Venkman leaps over the divider to kind of impress people. And then on the back shelf, you've got a filing cabinet here with a cool old school radio because, it's the 1980s film. And there's also these ceiling lights on all the floors, but you get the best view here because it's such a wide open space. And then there's the bell that rings when they get their first call is "we got one," and Janine hits the alarm, the little red button there to activate the alarm. So a lot of cool features and definitely rooms that you would remember in the first Ghostbusters film. Along the bottom wall of the folding door is the Ghostbuster storage lockers, and that's for the original 3 Ghostbusters. And inside those lockers are the Proton Packs they wear. And, it's a really tight fit, and it's hard to get them to actually go into the closet. But if you put them upside down, they do fit so that the doors will close. The kitchen is located on the second floor, and it's really cool because they just totally stuffed the pantry with, containers of food, cereal boxes, a bowl, Tupperware containers. You got a coffee pot here and a mug on this old school oven. You got drawers that can kind of be pulled in and out. And then, of course, you need a place to eat. So you got this table and chairs. And it actually comes with 4 of these chairs, but I took them out just to get a better view of the kitchen. But of course, you know, these are scientists. They didn't eat a lot except for Twinkies. So what they have on their table is the pink slime in a jar, and in back of that there's a toaster, because if you remember in the second film they put that pink slime in the toaster, play some music, and it starts dancing around. And then there's a fridge in the back here, and the fridge is packed with like a pizza, a milk box, and a little wedge to represent cheese. And of course, you know, again, their messiness here, you got stacks of boxes. There's this old school like furnace with a pilot light lit, and then on the corner here you've got an old school arcade console video game. And that's cool because, you know, this film was back in the 1980s when, you know, if you wanted to play a video game, you had to go to an arcade. So I just love that touch for the times. And then there's this partition with a door that opens toward the bedroom. The bedroom is very basic in its design. There's 3 beds crammed within a small room, and you know, those beds have like the yellow bed comforters and then these cool slanted white pieces for the pillow, and there is a nightstand with a little lamp on top if they want to do a late night reading, or, you know, in the movie it was Dan Aykroyd having a dream about a ghost. The second floor of the wall that swings out is the bathroom, and the bathroom has all these cool little features. Like, you got the sink, but you also have, you know, the little pink soap and the little faucet handle, and then to the right of the sink you're going to see the toilet with a little roll of toilet paper on the side, and all these little yellow dots that are could be slime, but you know, you got 4 guys living in one building. It's probably a little pee that they didn't bother cleaning up. And then you've got this kind of old school flusher on top, and then the side here you kind of see that shower head peeking out, and that shower head has, you know, a nice hot and cold setting, as well as a drain and another bar of soap. The lab is by far my favorite room in this entire set, and it's because it's just filled with junk. You've got the table here with, you know, some slime and a brick magazine, and those brick magazines were kind of a play on the Time magazines that we saw in the film. But you know, there's jars of experimental goo. There's a boom box because, you know, it's the 1980s. You got the whole like computer system over here where they, you know, they're monitoring the Keymaster. You've got like a satellite dish, a radar. You got that old school like big old monitor computer, a jug of water, and it's just all kind of put in there like sporadically and messy, and it just gives the room so much life. The rec room consisted of a pool table, and it's a really cool little mall. You got these little pockets on the side, and they use the little circular white studs for the balls. You got the white for the cue ball and the color balls on top, and then of course your pool sticks are hanging on the back wall, just waiting for a minifigure to pick up and start playing. And the third floor on the wall that opens up is the photo lab or dark room where they develop the film, where they've, you know, taken pictures out in the field and then come back to analyze them. And, you know, there's some really cool little things in this room, like you've got the bottle of solution to develop the film, a magnifying glass to look closer at it, and of course you got this little camera here that, you know, they use to take the pictures. And then on the side wall here you can see, like, you know, extra film and, say, a solution and like canisters of film. But what's cool is, you know, in the second Ghostbusters film, the lab catches on fire when they're looking at you know, pictures of the main villain, and for that they've got this little like flame piece that's loosely put into the development tray, and there's also like this undeveloped clamp of film on the side that are loose and can be moved around to any position you want. The fire pole is really simple. It's really just this blank area. There's nothing on this floor here. On the very top we do have a fire extinguisher, but the cool thing is there's these little handles that the minifigures hold onto, and I put Ray in the on that pole because, you know, it was Ray who decided to buy the firehouse after going down the fire pole. So what you do is you just put the minifigure on that handle and then release him, and he spins around the pole. Raymond Stantz, or as he's commonly known, Ray, was played by Dan Aykroyd in the film, and this minifigure is almost exactly the same as the minifigure we saw in the Ecto-1 set, and he comes with a little walkie-talkie accessory, and his uniform, torso, exact same printing. You've got the little RS for his name tag, Raymond Stantz, and then on the side, you're going to see the difference between the Ecto-1 Ghostbusters and these Firehouse Ghostbusters. On their right arm, they've got the Ghostbuster logo and then an elbow pad. And as I turn them around, you're going to see that Proton Pack on the back. And that Proton Pack is the exact same build and design as we saw in Ecto-1. And it just attaches to the back stud there. And then when I take it off, you can see that elbow pad again on the left arm. And the left arm has a nice elbow pad and shoulder pocket. And he, like the Ecto-1, same faces with the smile. And if we turn it around, he's got his scared Ghostbuster look. Egon Spengler, played by Harold Ramis in the film, is also the exact same minifigure we saw in Ecto-1. You know, he's got his neutral expression, and then if we turn his head around, he has a scared expression because the Ghostbusters were a little bit of a coward. And then the other thing is he comes with a walkie-talkie, but the really cool thing is he comes with like this ghost detection accessory, and you know, it's got a hinge piece there and a little stud on top, and you know, he just uses this to see if there's any ghosts in the area, but his accessory is a new gadget for the Ghostbusters to use. Winston Zeddemore, played by Ernie Hudson in the film. Now this minifigure is our first minifigure to get like a slight upgrade. But first I want to show you those accessories. Now he comes with a walkie-talkie, nothing special there, but he also has this containment trap. And if you look at that black and yellow stripes, it's a slight difference from the Ecto-1 containment trap that just had a yellow grate on top. Now the builds, the pieces are almost identical. The only difference is that flat piece on top, but that little change just looks great, and I think it looks a lot better than this yellow grate piece we got in Ecto-1. Now I was talking about the minifigure getting a slight upgrade, and that is his hairpiece here. Now this hairpiece has kind of bumps and looks more three-dimensional and has a lot more texture to it, while the original hairpiece was more just slick back hair, and I think this does a better job of matching Ernie Hudson's hair in the film. And of course he's a Ghostbuster, so he has our neutral expression and our terrified expression. Peter Venkman, who is played by Bill Murray in the Ghostbusters film, by far had the most updates to his minifigure character. Now he comes with the walkie-talkie and containment trap, but we've already talked about those, so I want to look at the minifigure himself. And let's start with the hair. Now the hair itself is receding hairline, and that's great because, you know, in the first Ecto-1 he just had a full set of hair. In fact, I even made a joke about that because Bill Murray was already losing his hair, so I'm glad they put the receding hairline to match Bill Murray's hairline from the film. And then his hair, I mean his facial expression itself, the other one is kind of more of a, you know, generic minifigure smile, but here you've kind of got that, you know, lip curl and raised eyebrow that just kind of shows that snarkiness of Bill Murray, and it really comes across with the character much better. And then his torso piece, you'll notice, has been covered in green slime. So they add the green slime from the hotel scene where he is slimed by Slimer and on their very first Ghostbuster adventure. And then because he's been slimed, rather than giving him a scared expression, if we turn his head around, you're going to see more of this like disgusted, ugh, he slimed me. Janine Melnitz, played by Annie Potts in the film. Her minifigure, you know, she was a receptionist at the Ghostbusters Firehouse. She's got that kind of like that plaid shirt and then the blouse underneath it and black pants, and you know, there's just a little, there's the white shirt, blouse, arms, and then in the back you've got the plaid over shirt. And what I love about this minifigure is her facial expressions. I think it's like the best facial expressions of all the minifigures. Here you've got the glasses down over the nose, just kind of looking down at you, thinks she knows more than you. And then, you know, rather than just like the straight up scared expression, she's kind of got this like, what is going on here? Crooked glasses, there's slight fear, there's even more confusion. I just love that look on her face. Dana Barrett was played by Sigourney Weaver in the film, and this minifigure is based on when she was possessed by the gatekeeper, and we can tell that because she's got this kind of crazy long wild hair. I mean, I know it was the 80s and everybody had kind of crazy long hair, but you know, this is just a little more crazy and messed up. And she's got her torn dress from, you know, when she was possessed, you know, and the dog comes out of the couch and or seat and then throws her into the kitchen, and then you see some little gold on the back of her dress there, and there's the bare arm because because the sleeve dress has been ripped off. And like most minifigures in this series, she has two facial expressions. We've got this one where, all her makeup's on, and, she's got that slightly, evil look to her, and as she opened the door for Bill Murray. But then there's also the red eyes, full possession. There is no Dana, only Zool. Louis Tully, played by Rick Moranis in the film. Again, Dana Barrett was, the minifigure was based off her being possessed by the gatekeeper, and here we have Rick Moranis, or Louis Tully, being possessed by the Keymaster. Gatekeeper, Keymaster, I'm sure there are no sexual innuendos being made there, because, Ghostbusters was clean family fun, mostly. Anyway, I love this minifigure. Like I said, this is when he's being possessed by the Keymaster. So we've got his party shirt on there with some smudges of dirt and brown pants because, he was chased through Central Park by a large dog or bear. And then on the back, you've got that shiny shirt with a little splotch of dirt on the back. And as we turn around, he is one of my favorite minifigures, or at least human minifigures in this set because of his faces. He comes with 3 facial expressions. The first one's is kind of like more like, okay guys, who brought the dog? To the possessed red eyes, where he is the Keymaster. And then the second head has a third expression for you. And what happens is this head shows him in the chin strap, and they give you a little hat, for when Egon hooks him up to the machine to see what's going on. And, even though we're seeing Louis Tully, the monitor is showing the outline of the dog, of the Keymaster. I'm really glad they put the library ghost in this set, because the library ghost is what started Ghostbusters. It's where they proved ghosts exist. They proved they could actually capture a ghost. So it's important that we get the library ghost. And the library ghost, when they first see her, she's this sweet old lady. She's got the nice little, outfit from when she was alive. And there's the wispy tail of smoke because, she's a ghost, so she doesn't have legs. And, we're seeing this piece a lot more with the different minifigures since Ninjago came around, rather than the plain Casper looking ghosts. And the thing with this minifigure is, she looked like a sweet old lady and was reading a book in the library, so they give you this little book accessory for her to hold. But when they try to approach her, she turns into this evil, hideous monster. So not only do we get like this cool, grotesque looking face with weird teeth and fangs and gums and really evil looking eyes, but they even give you a new hairpiece where you get that long white hair. By far my favorite minifigure, human or ghost, is Slimer. He's just such a great ghost. I'm glad that we get Slimer. His accessory is a hot dog because, of course, he was always eating. At the end of the film, he came out of the hot dog cart just munching on those sausages, so I'm glad they gave him that for an accessory. And, this is a printed piece of the huge mouth, the big tongue and his teeth, because, he's just known as a disgusting blob. And this translucent green plastic, the arms do move, just like a minifigure's arms would. So he's a very simply designed figure, but perfect. And to me, I think he's one of the favorite characters in the Ghostbuster film, and definitely one of my favorite minifigures. The zombie taxi driver is based on the end of the film when all the ghosts release from the containment trap and that red smoke goes up the tailpipe of a cab, and then all of a sudden this skeleton appears in the driver's seat. And here we've got his leather jacket and black pants and a ripped white shirt underneath it. And then I like this little cabbie hat he wears, but I'm going to take it off so you can better see the detail they put into this minifigure's head with the missing teeth and the beady eyes and just the decomposition in the skin. And as I turn it around, you kind of see how it's just, falling apart. And there's not a lot of side printing on the side of the head, but Lego rarely puts side printing on their minifigure heads. And then here you just got whiffs of white hair because most of it's fallen out as he was decomposing in the ground. And just a really great looking minifigure. And very excited that they decided to use a zombie taxi driver in this set. And the set also comes with these just generic blue and red ghosts, very simple in design, but it kind of gives you some more ghosts for our Ghostbusters to catch or to have haunt the city or fly around the the Ghostbusters Firehouse. And the way they fit on these little clear sticks is the minifigures themselves are hollow, but what they do is they give this little bulb piece here. It kind of looks like a minifigure's head, but it's just clear plastic. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and you can click on the image to watch another video. Thank you.